Hi, my name is Ananda Lennox, and I'm the program coordinator for the West Springfield Care Coalition. Thank you for joining me today. I have a short presentation that gives you an overall view of what vapes are, why we have concerns about youth use of vapes, and how they've become the latest, greatest, most popular way to deliver nicotine and marijuana into our systems. So, to start off, because I never know what people's base knowledge level is, let's just do a nice overview of what vaping is. So, vaping is the term used when somebody uses an e cigarette, which has also become known as a vape. These tend to be small devices that heat a liquid, known as an e juice, into an aerosol, which is inhaled like a cigarette. Now, I say small because when we're talking students, they usually go for the smallest disposable devices they can find because they're easy to conceal. But adults who are using vapes, sometimes for cessation, will have a tankard system, which is larger, and they're not designed to be hidden. But back to the liquid. This e-juice is a liquid that's often composed of a propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin base, flavoring, ultrafine particles, volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, carcinogens, and nicotine. Now, when we talk about propylene glycol or vegetable glycerin base, these things are approved by the FDA, but they are approved by the FDA for ingestion, not inhalation. So keep that in mind when we're talking about vapes. There are things that are designed to be consumed, but they are not designed to go into your lungs, nor are your lungs designed to handle them in an aerosolized form. We know that inhaling these chemicals damages the lungs, and we know from all of the research on traditional cigarettes that nicotine is highly addictive. So, what we have on the market right now are these products that come with a variety of flavors that appeal to kids, that are easy to conceal and hide, that are easy to acquire online, that are disposable, and are filled with a high potency nicotine. And it's just created kind of a perfect storm for addicting a new generation. Additional substances can be vaped. So there's things called dab pens, which look a lot like vapes, but they have a cartridge that has usually a viscous type of liquid in it. Those can hold THC or CBD. Some people have been vaping melatonin, thinking it'll help them sleep, synthetic marijuana, and other illicit substances. So let's go back to the aerosol for a minute. I've been doing prevention work for long enough that I remember when vapes first hit the market, the biggest brand out there was Juul, which still exists. And what they were telling consumers was that there was no aerosol that you were inhaling with these vapes. It was just water vapor. And if you went and spent any time on YouTube, you would see a lot of young people, sometimes in their 20s, but oftentimes middle school students, doing these kind of amazing tricks with these larger tankard style vapes. And sometimes there'd be colors added, and it was actually pretty cool. But what we found out now that it's been on the market and the FDA has been involved is that you're not inhaling a water vapor, you're inhaling these aerosolized chemicals. And this graphic just shows you what tends to be in these vapes. So we know there's nicotine, volatile organic compounds, ultrafine particles, which are particularly bad for your lungs, and then heavy metals, which are the byproduct of heating the lithium battery that works the vape, cancer-causing chemicals, and then flavorings such as diacetyl, which is a chemical linked to a serious lung disease called popcorn lung. Diacetyl's gotten a lot of attention, and most reputable vape dealers don't have it in their e-juices. But since so many youth are getting or sourcing their vapes from unknown sources, a lot of times overseas, there's no guarantee that you're getting a vape that's free of diacetyl. And I don't think anybody has the capacity to be testing this in their homes. So let's just do a quick overview of some of the different varieties and shapes that vapes can come in. The blue one is kind of a standard shape you'll see a lot. The square one, I haven't seen one of those recently, but they also have some that are teardrop shaped. We have some that look like pens or keychains, and then some egregious ones that are shaped like asthma rescue inhalers. Good times for school officials trying to sort through all this stuff. And then there's many more varieties. There are some that look like smartphones, exactly like pens. I think that's an example of a dab pen, a whistle, a cell phone. And then there's others that just look like small, sleek devices. This year, we're doing this presentation in 2023. There's been a lot of news coverage about a company that's producing vapes that look exactly like highlighters, and it says highlighter on the outside. So what are the dangers of youth e-cigarette use? I always like to start by reminding folks that, when we're talking about addiction, dependency, and risk of disease, we're worried primarily about nicotine addiction. It's highly addictive, and there's really no incentive to vape unless you are becoming addicted to the main chemical that addicts you. So, nicotine is kind of the incentive to keep using. And we know that there's chemicals and bad things in your lungs for these vapes. So, it's the nicotine that'll keep bringing them back. And I don't have stats right in front of me right now, but I can say that we know that vapes deliver a very high concentration of nicotine. So there's more side effects when you don't use it because your body has become accustomed to such a high concentration of nicotine that it's just, it addicts you faster and the withdrawal symptoms are harder. And with young people right now, we're seeing increased anxiety, withdrawal symptoms, irritation, things that oftentimes get confused with normal signs of development and puberty can oftentimes be signs of nicotine withdrawal. We know that using nicotine can harm parts of the brain that control attention, learning, mood, and impulse control. So it's not really great for students. And we know that nicotine changes the way that the synapses in our brain are formed. So, for example, when new memories are created or new skills learned, stronger connections form between brain cells. What's happening when you add nicotine to a developing brain is that they're also forming their own connections, and it just makes it so that nicotine becomes a hardwired part of their brain development. We also know that young people who use e-cigarettes are 4 times as likely to smoke cigarettes in the future when compared to their peers who did not use e-cigarettes. So this slide just goes over what the laws are around vaping in youth for Massachusetts. So Massachusetts has been kind of a front runner in trying to regulate vapes. They realized early on that flavored e-juices are attracting youth. So they banned the sale of flavors in Massachusetts. So there should be no legitimate storefront that is selling flavored vapes, period. But you'll find out that they still are. I think because there's been a lack of oversight and enforcement. And there's also a lot of youth who just go online to get their product. But with that in mind, if your student has a flavored vape, they probably bought it online or illegally. Regardless of flavors, vapes cannot be sold to anyone under the age of 21, and selling to a minor is illegal. So with all of these restrictions, how are they getting them? Like we already mentioned online, the other is that Connecticut has very different rules than us. So they have flavored vapes and you can still sell them there. So some students just cross state lines. Some older students or older people will buy them, and then there's younger students who access them through them. So they get creative, but I think there's enough going on in our market that it would not be a waste of anyone's time to bring more attention to the fact that flavors are banned, and we need to actually enforce these laws so that the access is harder for our young people. Now, what are the signs of vape use? So a lot of parents, when they find out their students are vaping, are surprised, shocked. Sometimes there's a certain level of denial, like, I know my kid's a smart kid, they would not use this. And the other is that some of the signs can be subtle, and that there isn't a really strong overt scent as you would have with a traditional cigarette or with burnt marijuana, for example. But when we look at health concerns, you want to be on the lookout for coughing, nosebleeds, increased asthma attacks, shortness of breath, and increased mucus. As far as behavior goes, increased levels of anxiety, irritability, secretive behavior, grade changes, and trouble remembering things. And then we had a couple slides of what the devices look like. Be on the lookout for strange devices, concealed items that look like pens or keychains or USB drives, and then weird smells, especially sweet smells that seem out of place, or if it's THC, a mild skunk scent. And now that you have all this information, the call to action really for caregivers is to have a conversation with your child about this and look for your opportunities and windows of time to do so in a more natural way that doesn't feel forced. So, for example, if your school sends information home on vaping, use that as an opportunity to talk about it with your teen. A lot of times asking your teen a direct question about their own use can be met with defensiveness. So instead, talk with them about their friends. Ask them how their friends are. And not just in the terms of vaping, but just sort of like what's new with them, find out what kind of choices they're making, and see if vaping comes up. Make sure that you're sharing your rules and expectations with your kids and explain the consequences should they not follow them. I know that some families will have rules, for example, around alcohol, and if their student agrees not to drink during their high school years, they do things like pay for their car insurance or maybe help them with their car insurance payments, things like that. Make it attractive to them. If you smoke or vape yourself, explain that doing so when you're young is different and much more dangerous. You're trying to keep them healthy and safe. Though they might call you a hypocrite for being a vapor or a smoker, it is a different situation, and you can let them know that, in your case, your vaping or cigarette use might be continuing because of a nicotine addiction, and you don't want it for them. And feel free to discuss things that teens actually do care about too, like how expensive it is. A lot of times that can be a healthy deterrent. And then don't be surprised if you find a vape device or you have some evidence that your child is vaping, that they lie to you about it. Kids ultimately want to make their parents proud and please them and avoid confrontation. So a lot of times they will be deceitful around this because they don't want to disappoint you. So don't be surprised if they lie, but make sure that you're communicating your expectations and that you are empathizing with them about their use if they are using. Now we're going to get into the section where we go over resources that you can have at your disposal. So right now we are in the year 2 of a pilot program funded by the West Springfield Health Department, where we have cessation support at the high school for teenagers. Originally, we designed it for 14 to 19-year-olds, but we have extended it to 8th grade because we know that 8th graders have been struggling with vaping. So if you have a student that you think could benefit from a support group that's free and confidential, you would need to reach out to Mrs. McDonald. She is a West Springfield High School health ed teacher, and she's very well regarded by staff and students. And you can email her at her email address here, which I'll read out. It's BMCDONNELL, B McDonald, at townofwestspringfield.org. So that's what we have locally. When we look at national offerings, there's so many resources that you can find online. The Truth Initiative is a really great organization that has lots of things that can help you. They have educational materials, they have cessation tools. Probably their most well-known program is This Is Quitting. This is available 24/7 and it's free and confidential. You just go to thetruthinitiative.org for more information. And if teens want to use their texting feature, they would just text the word ditch vape to 88709 and they'll get set up with somebody who can help them. Parents and adults looking for help for their young people can also text quit to a different number. It's 202-899-7550. Then there's also My Life Might Quit, also free, confidential, and available 24/7. You would just text Start My Quit to the phone number listed there, or you can visit their website, mylifemightquit.com, for more information. And what they provide is you can text or call to talk with a coach who's ready to listen and provide you the tools you need to quit successfully. So I would advise that you check this out. There's also one designed just for Massachusetts. It's the Massachusetts Helpline. It's available at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. It's free and confidential and made for Mass residents who want help to end their tobacco use. And then where else could you go for information? So if you're a young person, or even if you're an adult, talk to another trusted adult. See if they can help you out. Talk to your doctor. Pediatricians are a great source for information, especially on the health impacts of vaping. And then there's the American Lung Association. The Partnership for Drug-Free Kids is a great website with lots of resources. Surgeon General has a lot of the latest research on how vaping is damaging lungs. We also have the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Make Smoking History, and a plug for our own website, the West Springfield Care Coalition. You can find us on the Town of West Springfield page under Community, or scroll down to the bottom and you'll see our link. And that's it for today. I tried to keep this short and sweet. If you have questions, you can always email us. I'm available at alennox@wsps.org, or you can reach our director at beaumont@wsps.org. You can follow us on Twitter, I think, which is now called X. You can follow us on Facebook or Meta. And I don't have the link here, but we're also on Instagram with content that I generally try to curate for younger people. Facebook is more for families and adults. But anyhow, thank you for your time and attention. I wish you luck with all that's going on with your students, and have a great day.